Hello, welcome to the Mayor Best Friends YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. To my right is our co-host and fellow council member, Nick Hillar. Would you like to say hello?
Hey there.
Great. Alright, today we're going to go ahead and dive into EV training. And I want to give this disclaimer. This is not going to be a tutorial video. This is just going to be a video that explains certain concepts about EV training. Alright, so Nick, are you ready to jump in?
Yep.
Great. Let's go ahead and jump into our topic here. So we're going to start off with some items. And these items you could find useful in your EV training adventure. Let's go ahead and go through the list. So there are 3 items I would like to discuss. Item number 1 is Amnesia Brace. Amnesia Brace does not allow XP gain, but the Pokemon has to show itself in battle. No changes to EV gain. Alright, and item number 2 is XP Share, which allows XP gain, but the Pokemon does not have to show itself in battle. No changes to EV gain. And Macho Brace allows XP gain. The Pokemon has to show itself in battle, but there's a perk to this item. There is a ×2 EV gain after battle. So if I'm battling against a Tangela, for example, Tangela normally gives out +1 defense EV. But if I were to equip the Macho Brace on the Pokemon and knock out a Tangela, then instead of getting +1, I would get +2 EV. So there we go. Nick, I know that you EV train quite a bit, so what item do you prefer? Do you prefer the Amnesia Brace, the XP Share, or the Macho Brace?
So mostly the combination of the Macho Brace and the EXP Share, because if you're going to EV train in bulk, then you'd want the lead Pokemon in your party to have the Macho Brace, so that it gets twice the amount of EVs. And the remaining party members, if you're EV training in the same stat, then you can give the EXP Share so that it gets, the same EV gain from the wild Pokemon. So I don't think the Amnesia Brace is any useful because we have automatic scaling in tournaments right now. So therefore, having to prevent your Pokemon from gaining any experience is kind of useless. So definitely the combo of Macho Brace and EXP Share.
Great. And just to give a disclaimer here, because I know that some people may ask this, if you have a Macho Brace on the lead Pokemon and an XP Share on the other Pokemon, then the Macho Brace's effects will only work on the Pokemon holding it. So in other words, you can't use an XP Share to get ×2 EV gain. You have to equip the Pokemon that you want a ×2 EV gain with the Macho Brace, and you have to show that Pokemon in the battle. So there we go. Just want to put that disclaimer out there. So let's go ahead and talk about how to check for what EVs a Pokemon gives out. So let's say you are in Vermilion and you are fishing in the ocean and you find a Shellder and you don't know what EVs a Shellder gives out. So how do you know what EVs a Pokemon gives out? Well, the PokeMO developers were very nice to include this feature in the Pokedex, where I can research Shellder, okay, and Shellder gives out +1 defense EV. So there we go. So if you ever need any help with tracking down what EVs a Pokemon gives out, then the Dex is your best friend. The Pokedex is your best friend. Alright, and speaking about that, EVs. Now, some of you may ask about how EVs affect base stats. Now, base stats could warrant a separate video, but I'm just going to go ahead and mention it briefly here. A Pokemon is assigned its base stats. So here are the base stats for Blastoise, for example. And each Pokemon has its specialty. So let me go ahead and put up my Dugtrio as an example. Dugtrio its specialty is in speed. Attack is kind of decent, but Dugtrio really shines in the speed department. So I buff up the speed stat by 252 EVs. Now the speed is 372 because I put in some EVs, and thanks to that, I have plus 63 EVs in speed. So there we go. From the IVs, it's 31, so there we go. So 31 attack, 31 speed. And the nature is jolly. So EVs can affect the base stat. So, Nick, do you have anything to say about the structuring of certain Pokemon with EVs?
So you retrain a Pokemon based on the role you want it to play. So like, say for example, a Gyarados. If I want to make it a physically defensive one, then I'd invest in HP and physical defense. But if I want to make it offensive, then I'd go for attacking speed and maybe a bit of HP investment as well. So you invest the EVs according to what kind of role you want it to play in your team.
There are certain Pokemon with different roles. Dugtrio is not a good example of a Pokemon with different roles, because Dugtrio, when I think of a Dugtrio, I think of an arena trapper. But Gyarados, the Pokemon that you mentioned here, Gyarados can play a lot of roles in different teams. So Gyarados could be a DD sweeper, so DD Dragon Dancer, and it could be a defensive Gyarados, as Nikhillar mentioned. You can cater the EVs to what you want in the Pokemon. Nick, I would like to ask, so when you think of EVs, do you tap into your creative side just a bit?
I mean, at times, like, sometimes you'd want a certain Pokemon to be EV or have enough bulk to live a certain hit. Like, for example, say I'm using a Dragonite, something like a Milotic, or maybe enough investment so that if it's boosting, then the Ice Beam is maybe a 3 HP or so. Accordingly, you might want to, so you have to use the damage calculator to accordingly know how many EVs to invest.
And just to let you know, the maximum EVs you can put per stat is 252. So you cannot exceed 252 per stat, but the maximum EV sum, so in other words, what the EVs add up to, the maximum is going to be 510. So you can maximize two stats. So attack is 252, special attack is 252, and speed is 6. So that is going to be 510 EVs total. And if your Pokemon does reach the sum of 510, then you can get an effort ribbon. So 252, 252, and 6, so that all adds up to 510. So here's my effort ribbon, and you can get this effort ribbon at Slateport. So Nick and I are going to get an effort ribbon, so we're going to be right back. Please stay tuned to the Lumaire Best Friends YouTube channel for further EV training lessons. We are back in Slateport here, and we were talking about the effort ribbon. Now, you can get the effort ribbon by coming into this, I guess you could say this Slateport shopping fair, and talk to this merchant over here. Excuse me. And show her a Pokemon that has its stats maximized, but make sure that that Pokemon is first in your party. So for example, I want to give my Rapidash an effort ribbon here. So let's go ahead and talk to... Oh, alright. There we go. And she's going to give you an effort ribbon here. So now my Rapidash has an effort ribbon. So let's go ahead and go back to the studio, and we're going back. Please stay tuned to the Lumaire Best Friends YouTube channel. Alright, we are back in the studio here, and now you may ask yourself, what technique can I use to EV train? Well, there are two techniques you can do. The old school method, or the 1v1 method, or you can do 1v horde, or the new school method. Let's go ahead and take a look at the old school method. And this is a 1v1 guide, and I put up all the locations, and you can be able to EV train for HP, attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and speed. This is all 100%, so that means you won't be bumping into any other stat other than the stat that is listed here. And then I have bonus spots here, and then I have the Pokemon of choice. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and link this guide down in the description below, but also want to show you the new school guide as well, courtesy of Ackshot. This is a new school guide for hordes, and I'm going to link this guide in the description as well. The Pokemon of choice for hordes, I would have to say, is Teddiursa. Now, the nature could vary between naive or mild. If you want to increase Teddiursa's special attack, then mild may be a good nature for you. However, if you want to increase Teddiursa's speed, then naive may be good for you. And as for the EVs, this is my EV spread for Teddiursa. Here's my EV spread and the move set. So this is my move set here. Hyper Voice, Sweet Scent, Earthquake, and Cut. Just to let you know, when you summon hordes with Sweet Scent, you're going to use up 5 PP per horde encounter. If you use Sweet Scent to receive a horde encounter, then you're going to use up 5 PP. So I can get a total of 6 hordes with that PP. Now, can you PP max Sweet Scent? I would encourage you to, so that way you can be in the field a little more with your Teddy. But that's just a personal recommendation. And the pickup ability here. So if I lead with Teddiursa, then the pickup ability activates, which means I can pick up things from Everstones to Hard Rocks to Silk Scarfs. So pickup is really a wonderful ability. Potential to pick up items from wild Pokemon encounters. That is my Pokemon of choice for horde training. So check out both guides and tell me what method you like down in the comment section below. Alright, now let me ask you this question. What happens if you don't have time to do old school training or horde training or any sort of EV training? Well, I have some great news for you. There are vitamins. And I'm going to go ahead and list them in a slide here. So there we go. I'm going to go ahead and read them off to you. So let's go ahead and start off with HP Up. HP Up gives you 10 HP EVs. Protein is going to give you 10 attack EVs. Iron is going to give you 10 defense EVs. Calcium gives you 10 special attack EVs. Zinc gives you 10 special defense EVs. And Carbos gives you 10 speed EVs. Now I would like to ask you another question. Let's say that you do have the time to EV train, but you hit the wrong stat. So in other words, you put in an extra attack EV that you didn't want, or you put in an extra special attack stat that you don't want. If that is the case, then I have a solution for you. Berries. So let me go ahead and give you the list of berries here. So Pomeg Berry is going to decrease 10 HP EVs. Kelpsy Berry is going to decrease 10 attack EVs. Qualot Berry is going to decrease 10 defense EVs. Houndoom Berry is going to decrease 10 special attack EVs. Greppa Berry is going to decrease 10 special defense EVs. And Tomato Berry is going to decrease 10 speed EVs. And before we sign off, I just want to give a full disclosure here. Back in 2014, I used to train Pokemon for Nickillar. Back then. That was back in 2014. I retired from EV training because I'm very busy in real life, and I'm also busy with being mayor. So let's go ahead and sign off here. First, I would like to thank my script proofreader, MG Razor. He added a few things, and I thank him for that. And also, I would like to give a thank you to Nikhillar for spending some time with me in helping people explain EV training. So thank you, Nikhillar.
No problem.
Great, great. Alright, well, let's go ahead and sign off. This is the Mayor Best Friends YouTube channel. Don't forget to comment or subscribe to my channel, like or dislike the content that you see here. And this is the Mayor Best Friends YouTube channel signing off. PokeMMO Mayor at your service.